So before we talk about your amazing work as Bruce, there's one question about you that's been burning in this household for a long, long time. And
Okay.
the wife and I are diehard fans of Last Man on Earth.
I have a
And
feeling I know what you're going to ask.
Pop and Lock, was that written
Also,
into
pop
the
and lock.
script because they knew
No.
that you could do that?
No, well, I kind of planted it on them that I could dance, and they said, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I used to be kind of a b-boy, and I can pop and lock." And they were like, "Okay, we've got to include that in the script." After I gave them a little sample.
Because that was in like 5 episodes where just in the background you'd be popping and locking, but loved it. The
Thank
wife
you.
regularly goes, "Oh, you mean Todd, pop and lock?" But anyway, we're not here to talk about
See,
that.
I thought you were going to ask what happened with the cliffhanger because I could get it asked that all the time.
No, I interviewed Boone last week and he didn't even know and he didn't want to talk about it either. So I got the stink eye from Boone. That's
Oh no,
never
I
ask
won't give
again.
you stink eye. It's okay. I've been pushing Will to do a movie or something, you know.
Well, well, the key is you're here to talk with me about The Residents and your
Yeah.
excellent work on the series. And something
Thanks.
commendable about the show is how many actors that we associate with comedy that take dramatic turns in this particular series. Do you know what particular role or series landed you this role as Bruce?
I don't know. I think it was a series of things. I'm honored because it was Shonda Rhimes. She's done everything she touches is amazing. Grey's
Hmm.
Anatomy and Bridgerton and Bridgerton. I always don't know how to pronounce that.
Me neither.
I love
Yeah.
the show, but don't know how to pronounce it. But it was your question again is how or
Yeah, because sometimes you'll find out that, for example, when I was talking with Boone, he talked about he was in one movie with Forte and he wrote him in there. He went, "You're the
yes.
right kind of creepy." In this
Yeah.
case, was Shonda Rhimes a fan of a particular role that you did?
I think she was a fan of a kind of all my work. And then so I was really honored. I got an offer for this, which is really cool, which is something that happens, uh, now, which is amazing because auditioning can really suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this particular role, Bruce, how much of you, the human being, is there in the Bruce role? Because obviously you're not an engineer or plumber, however you want to
Oh.
state the profession. But there is
Yeah.
humility, and a lot of your roles do have humility and a real person in them.
Thanks, Darren. I do think I try to bring some of that to the role. I think all characters, whether they're villainous or whatever, have to find some humility in them. And unless they're all ego, like American Psycho, like Christian Bale in American Psycho. But I really, you know, we're all such multifaceted people, and I
Yeah.
think to some degree it's all in us. I think we just kind of it comes through. And my process is I'll read a script, really kind of break it down, and then I'm a big meditator. And I'll sit there and kind of meditate, and he'll kind of come together in this strange world. And then I have this really funny thing. I've just recently told a couple of people about it, and I realized it's kind of cool. But I have this thing where I go out and I'll have coffee or I'll just be at the grocery store and I end up meeting the guy. I end up seeing him.
Hmm.
And that happened with Bruce. And what I do is I usually kind of say hi, I introduce myself, I tell them I'm an actor, and I ask them about their lives a little bit. And for the most part, people are really willing to do that. And I say, I'm going to base kind of a character on you. Like, what are you about? And so that's kind of where I get the physicality and that sort of thing. Yeah.
So it's not the case where you said, hook me up with a union job for 2 weeks. I'll shadow an engineer and do that part of it.
Well, I can spot a union guy. So the guy that I did was a union
Oh,
dude.
really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, did you get to speak with anybody related to White House lore or employment as part of this role?
No, we didn't, but we all read this book. Well, I read this book that was loosely based, that Residence is loosely based upon. And
Hmm.
it's just got these incredible stories about these people who are the people we don't see very often. I
Yeah.
think when we go to the White House, we see politicians, we see all of that world, but we never see this world where it's really the people who are working class come there and really are just trying to serve the first family. And talk about humility.
Sure.
these people are just incredibly humble. They're just about doing their job, and they take great pride in doing their job. And yeah, these stories were just incredibly inspiring. People who'd worked there for 30, 40, 50 years and were in charge of, winding the clocks, but making sure that there are a lot of clocks in the White House.
Right.
Uh, so, they've been doing this for 30 years. And people who would just, the butler who would stand at the door and greet people, and just the people that he had met throughout his careers, and these really amazing stories about conversations he's had with people. Because whoever comes in the White House, I guess, is pretty important. And it's just, these people were just fascinating. Yeah.
Sure. Another point of curiosity I have about you with relation to this series is it's not fully in sequence because there's flashbacks, not spoiling anything for
No,
anybody
yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah.
But what was the sequence of filming it like, knowing that there would be the story being told, a flashback to your side of the story, the flashback to another person's side of the story? Were all your scenes knocked out relatively in a short window?
No. So we were all there the whole time, and it
Oh,
was a gigantic cast. And I think the most difficult part was to remember where you were in the world at that time. So it all takes place in one night, and then we take a month off or 2 months off, and then we come back. And I think that happens around episode 4 or 5. But I think, this is the biggest cast I've ever worked with.
yeah.
You're in the when you're when you're in the makeup and hair trailer, they put people's headshots up along the wall, and there wasn't enough room to do that in the trailer, which is a huge trailer. I think there were like 100 people in the cast, not including background and extras. Um, and it was just this thing where remembering people's names was really difficult. It took me a couple weeks because we've got 100 names to remember, not to
Yeah.
mention the crew and the director and producers. And just remembering who these people were and what your relationship was to them at all times, and how you respond to this person because they're your boss or they're your peer or any number of factors.
I'm shocked to hear that because of how many stars there are in this. I'm calling you a star, big star, Mel Rodriguez, of course.
Darren, thank
But
you.
when normally you see big stars in any kind of production, you assume they're doing the 1 to 2 day on set. Let's get all my lines out here. We'll use the stand-in. So I'm very
Yeah.
surprised that that was not at all the case in the series.
No, not at all. And we approach this very much. I've got a background in theater, and
Hmm.
it felt like we were doing theater again. And most of the people that were involved had a theater background. Shonda loves actors,
Hmm.
and Paul William Davies, the writer and director and producer of this, loves actors, which is such a cool thing. And so they really go out and find these actors who are actors. And it was just amazing to be a part of that, you know? Yeah,
Actors, actors. So
exactly.
to us, this is a new series. For you, it's something you did a while ago. Is
Yeah.
this the latest and the greatest, or have you filmed five things since then? And if you're under embargoes, I'm not asking for
No,
names
so I
and
got a movie that I did that I'm not able to, that I kind of am, and I'm not be able to talk too much about, but that'll be coming out probably later this year. And then I have a series on Netflix called Carol and the End of the World, which is really great. It's an adult animated series,
hmm.
and it's about life. It's a kind of everybody going through this kind of existential crisis, which I think all of us probably are right about now. And it's worth a watch. Yeah.
So if I can parrot or instigate a little bit, it sounds like you're steadily working, but not being typecast where they go, we want you to be this exact role that you did in something else. Because
Thank God.
because
Yeah.
this Bruce character, nothing like the Todd character we brought up 5 times already.
Yeah. And I think that that's been a real, of all the blessings I've had, and I have had many, I think one of the biggest blessings is that I haven't, and a lot of people do. And I had a friend once tell me that, and it was probably the best compliment, was that, you know, all of the characters you played would never be invited to the same party. And I thought that was really cool because that's my intention. You know, I want to be a shapeshifter. I love people. I love characters. I love getting into their skin
Sure.
and understanding the way they understand or perceive the world. And yeah, it's just, man, it's the greatest for me. It's the greatest gig in the world, and I'm just, I'm so psyched and feel so blessed to be doing it, man. You know?
Well, two more questions and then I'll
Yeah,
let you go. And the
of
first one
course.
has to do with you mentioned the theater background before. And
Yeah,
back when I was a kid, you were just a theater actor. And
yeah.
nowadays, people go between theater, film, movies, and it's no batting of the eyes you could do with that. So what was the long-term plan for you when you were back in the theater world?
I graduated from SUNY Purchase, and which was a conservatory for theater arts.
Oh yeah,
When I got out, I really wanted to do theater. It's what I had been trained to do. And so I got out and I did a lot of theater, but to live in New York and really survive, you couldn't do it on a theater paycheck.
yeah.
And so, there were two shows there at the time. I think it was like Law and Order and Third Watch. And I did both of those. I had guest stars on those, and there was nothing else to do there. And I don't think I just was walking around one night. It was, early in the morning, like you can in New York. And it's so beautiful and nice to do. And it was like 2 or 3 a.m. I was dating this really cool girl, and I was kind of in love with her, but I had this feeling that I needed to get out of there and come to LA. And I remember I called her and I said, "Hon, I really think I need to go to LA. You want to come with me?" And she was like, "Yeah." And we, got this right away van and packed all our stuff in it and $500 and came out here to LA.
Wow. So one of the few positive moving across country stories.
Yes, although there's been interspersed. There's been a lot of, it's been a lot of like luck, hard work, persistence, being able to handle no's, or they loved you, but that sort of thing. So
Sure. And, and last question I got for you. You're
yeah,
one of those actors where we see you a lot, but all we really know about you is, he's in that, he's in that, and he's in that, and we like him in that. But what's the main passion or hobby when you're not busy on set or prepping for the roles or talking to union guys?
I've got two young girls, 6 and 10, and they're my passion. I love doing stuff with them and playing. Anytime I get to myself, I spend with them and my family. I'm kind of a family guy. And so it sounds like you're maybe a family guy too. And, there's nothing better. There's nothing better, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on this role. Looking forward to that film we can't talk about. Looking forward to the animated thing that's on Netflix as well, the new work on that. So thank you for the years of great art, Mel, and looking forward to what's to come, even if you're not popping and locking in it.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate you, man.
Paltrocast.